torn asunder top lane in this season already, and it has been by and far away the most picked champion already.
Yeah, the fact that the Renekton ban came out as the last one from IG, that's a pretty clear indication of where they want to put the priorities in. But LGD, even though they're not going to get their hands on Yone this time around, XQW is a fantastic Azir player, already shown from the few performances we got out of Split 1, and it was one of those times where they were super close to taking a game off of eventual first Split champions in top esports, and they rounded off with Xin Zhao for Climber.
All right, so aggressive looks from LGD. They're going to have really good damage potential when we talk about those objectives like the Dragon and the Baron. Their ability to make snap engages is also going to be pretty tight. So looking for what IG is going to have in response, already showing the kind of archetypes of a dive composition with the Zambesa and the Vi. They're going to need to have some sort of damage, and especially from the bottom lane, how are they going to be following this up?
IG rounded off with the Talia, so not only you have dive powers, you already talked about them forming, but you also have a lot of global roaming power. The Weaver's Wall can get you to a side lane and really accelerate someone the likes of Gala or even TheShy if you really are playing for the success of Mbessa. Now, LGD, they can choose to get their top lane counter pick right now, or if they want to get something secured for Shaoye, that would be very safe against this dive composition, but they're going with the Udyr. I don't think I've seen an Udyr use as an Mbessa answer yet.
Yeah, the two players that have been playing a lot of Udyr so far in the LPL early on this year were Cube and Sasa. These two players were the only people to kind of pick it up, and so far Sasa, as one of his most played champions from the LDL, I think has performed excellently with it as something that we're kind of looking for, and going to be interested to see, because I think every team at this point needs to find an answer to Mbessa. And as we get towards the end of our draft, or the end of our bans here, no AD carries taken, and with already Kalista being banned, now with Ziggs being taken away as well, I wonder how far into the pool we're going to have to go. Ashe, Varus as well have been champions that have been taken away, and Ezreal, I think, has been one of the biggest winners when we talk about this patch and coming into this season.
I find it so curious that IG have so much respect for Shaoye's Draven that they're willing to ban it, even though I feel like you should have a fairly easy time in locking down Draven with the first 3 champions that you've drafted. But you know what? You know, respect is game, or game is game, and IG are going to respect it. LGD still trying to see what answers that they would like to not have to deal with. Karma, a good way to kind of establish that lane dominancy that probably Shaoye and YCX are trying to set up for in these final 2 picks.
I like that, especially when we're talking about what this IG team does want to do. You have strong pick potential. Now here for LGD, since they're going to have the first pick on after this ban, I kind of want to see them either look for their AD carry and go for support counter pick. When we talk about when LGD have looked really good, it has been strong performances from Shaoye and YCX. They were pushing people like Jackie Love and Chris when we were talking about them in Split 1. So if we can get them a strong enough matchup, I think this would bear well for LGD, who already have overwhelming kind of advantage when we talk about the game going later and later. So much range from this Azir and Ashe.
Yeah, and it's really plays well into back to front, front to back composition that you want to play for. Just kiting backwards, using a lot of the inherent slows and utility that Azir and Ashe bring. But it does make it super easy for IG to look at the pool of available AD carries and say, well, what champion can assist in a Vi lockdown? Varus Q, right? You know, you don't even have to be within the same relative screen. You can just fire a long piercing arrow. Now, IG are going to have to blind their support here, and that's going to give YCX a really powerful option to counterpick with.
They've been playing a whole gamut of, you know, different kind of enchanters, some engaged champions. I love that Meiko has really brought into his pool, but his claim to fame has been his ability to find engages and really crush in the laning phase. So seems like IG, they just want to be able to dive, find consistent engagements onto someone like this Ashe. I think they're going to run into some issues when we talk about Xin Zhao and this Udyr. They're going to have kind of the time of their lives, and it does mean that IG, first 15 minutes, we are looking for them to have an overwhelming gold lead here coming into this game. So LGD, as long as the game goes late, I think it is interesting for them to kind of throw down the gambit and say, we are the better team. We're going to try and play the scaling game versus you guys. And they pick up one of the unique champions that YCX brought into the LPL this year. It was the Seraphine.
And the cool thing about this, Alk, is that LGD looked at their composition and said, do we really need our support to be kind of a beefcake? Do we need them to be able to face check these bushes by walking into them? Well, guess what? You already got Xin Zhao, you already got Udyr, and both champions have options to kind of disengage if they get jumped on, and Seraphine can always just throw Qs to face check bushes anyway. You have hawk shots, you have long range abilities to do that for you, so now you have a champion that is an enchanter that should give you lane dominance alongside the Ashe, and it's not like you're missing out engage because you have Encore on top of Ashe Arrow.
Yeah, the level 6s here for both of these teams are incredibly potent, but here for IG, they need to be playing this game fast and loose. That is the point of a Vi Taliyah combo, making sure that enemy mid doesn't have flash, enemy AD carry doesn't have summoner spells to be able to react, and with how immobile some of these champions from LGD can be, it is going to be on IG to make sure that they're finding picks, securing vision around objectives, and trying to find their fights, because this game does not get easy as the game goes later. We are looking towards LGD, which, again, I think is such an interesting gambit to throw when you are the expected underdogs coming up against IG.
And remember, these are all best of ones, so there's no going back to the draft phase right after what could be a loss for either team if you know, potentially cooked wrong in the composition here. And I like what you set up here for IG. The timer is on them to really execute in a very snowball accelerated manner. Whereas for LGD, they get to play kind of the sit back and scale freely game. You have ways to kind of protect yourself in the early game. Xin Zhao is going to be your early game bridge, but he doesn't necessarily need to make, you know, a lot of action happen, Alk. He just needs to make sure that his lanes are well protected.
Exactly, and his lanes have been performing excellently. I think that Sasa has been a really good weak side, but still being able to kind of contribute resources in the early game. And I'm just looking at these two bottom lanes. I mean, Gala, Meiko, historically, these two players individually have been some of the best in the LPL in prior seasons. And for Shaoye and YCX being a call-up from LDL, they have kind of, I think, really hit their stride early on into this year and have been a very, very good bottom lane, both mechanically in the lane and when we get to team fights. Part of that, I think, is due to the success of a player like YCX. I think he has been so innovative when we talk about his champion pool, and also his individual play has been really impressive.
Yeah. It's so nice that we get to be able to cement that narrative by seeing him bring back the Seraphine support. This is just a champion that, not just in LPL, Alk, but we have talked about Seraphine pretty much all over the world, how not many supports, not many AD carries as well, are willing to pick a champion like Seraphine. I don't know if it's just like some type of bias against it. It's like, I'm not playing Seraphine.
This champion was OP for a really long time, and no one wanted to play it before,
exactly.
So whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're missing out, man. The champion.
Yeah, we're here
is
2 minutes, and you can already see double range bottom lane. This is what we should come to expect when they were watching LGD with this Ashe and Seraphine. Already Gala losing 60% of his HP is a really good trade coming in from them, and both junglers are pathing towards the bottom side of the map. So imagine if they're able to trap IG under this turret. It's going to be up to Jiejie to how he's able to respond and what he's going to be able to get done as this Vi.
2 words, Alk. GG, if you are looking at Gala's health pool right now. Just like,
oh my god, even Meiko too, man.
Yeah, they're getting chunked out hard. I really don't know, even if Jiejie comes, if Climber's there for the 3v3, oh, don't tell me Rookie might be in trouble. Gets a seismic shove flick, but if Climber just wants to burn flash here, not gonna do it. Oh, he lands and becomes lightning. Okay, flashes away from the Vault Breaker. Got a little too dicey there, but he at least takes a chunk out of Rookie's health bar, but down a flash summoner spell for it.
Yeah, losing track of enemy jungle seems like a little bit of a mistake. Again, there was no early vision to try to spot out where the Vi was, so LGD end up utilizing the flash of their jungler just to try to apply pressure onto Rookie. It does give XQW a little bit of time to hit back onto this minion wave. He's having a little bit of trouble, but that is just kind of how the Taliyah early matchup goes for Azir. So, gotta be careful. He has no mana, so I don't think there's going to be a kill here, but big thing, again, we were looking at how Jiejie was going to be able to impact this bottom lane, and it seems like for the time being, Gala and Meiko have been trying to survive, but already there's a mounting gold lead here coming in for LGD's bottom lane.
Not only a gold lead, but also a sustain advantage that LGD have whittled away from IG. I mean, Gala's already down his pots, whereas Shaoye still's got a biscuit, as well as YCX, plus a normal pot. So these guys are going to be sustaining a long time, and if I'm Gala Meiko, I'm a little sad and heartbroken as Jiejie knows that there's not really much that he can do, and he would just end up wasting time since Climber's also here on the bottom side of the map, so he's already pathing towards the top, gonna get resources where he can, and Gala Meiko just have to accept the fact that they're kind of in a bad place at the moment, but XQW could get flanked upon, dodges the seismic shove. I don't know if XQW has enough mana, but it doesn't even matter. Jiejie cannot get in range, so he dodges what could have been a disastrous play.
And look at the early game already coming in from LGD. This Udyr's already gone a plate off of this Mbessa. Bottom lane, they're almost, they were very close to kind of pushing the lead a little bit earlier, but getting a plate for themselves as well. When we look at rookie teams, a lot of it is, hey, mechanically they should be able to prove up to their counterparts, but it's in the macro that does end up lacking. So we're going to be seeing how LGD is able to respond. Again, post 15 minutes, can they hold a lead? Can they close out a game cleanly? And for IG, we're looking, again, early drivers here. Jiejie has been one of the most consistent members, and I think the best performing when you look like game per game for Invictus. So I'm kind of seeing now on this Vi, you're focused on getting your first item. He hasn't taken his recall yet, so these early grubs might be a tough answer for IG.
Gala walks back to lane, gets a decent chunk onto Shaoye's health bar there with the piercing arrow, but we're probably about to return to the oppression that is double range bot lane into a melee support, where Meiko can't really do anything unless he just decides to flip it for an all-in with the engage and the ignite. Now, Climber, using the vision of Shaoye's hawk shot, is going to get information that Jiejie is not on the top side, so he has a little bit of time to steal away some chickens before Jiejie gets back in range on this bottom side of the map. As you called out, grubs spawning in the next 20 seconds here. I think LGD should have time to be able to roam up for it, but if Jiejie can spring upon bot lane... Oh no.
I mean, they moved all their vision up into the top side here. They're going to see YCX. There's no damage, though. Jiejie has no follow-up. This is just going to be wasted time here for IG. Looks like instead what they're going to do is get priority over this bottom side river. I mean, this doesn't matter, Jiejie. He's going to walk under his turret. He still can take his recall if he really wants. And he still has so many biscuits, so much available EHP, basically, for YCX. He can very healthily just walk down towards bottom lane. And so we're going to see that trade of objectives and just a little bit of relief from the pressure from IG in their bottom lane, what they've had to deal with versus the double ranged.
Yeah, I definitely was concerned that YCX was about to forfeit the lane advantage by walking into the tri-bush, but thankfully he knew that he can just walk up the river, and even though Jiejie could have potentially been there, which he ended up being, as you called out, no damage follow-up possible, so he's able to just walk back to the safety of mid lane, and LGD in a good spot so far, being able to set up at least the first 3 grubs on that rotation. Now, first dragon going over to IG, not the end of the world for necessarily LGD either. Now, Meiko, this is a great opportunity to look for a flank. Maybe could get a flash burned out.
Beautiful.
Yep. Shaoye dodges it. Now, how much can they punish off of the cow? It's not going to pop a summoner spell either, only just the ignite onto YCX and tries to get a little bit of a chunk, but Climber is here on the bottom side of the map once again, so it should be enough protection for Shaoye and YCX to operate as normal.
And that was a lot of vision as well. You see all these wards in the bottom side do spot out Climber. Some ramifications of them getting the first 3 grubs is as we get later into the game, they have very strong side laners, people that can push and be very secure by themselves on a side lane. We're talking about Sasa on this Udyr and this Azir. One kind of X factor that might change is going to be the Mbessa and who she's matching up against. Meiko's got to be careful. He's looking for an engage because they're almost level 6. Gala has the ultimate.
Chain of Corruptions, but Climber is there to defuse the play. Decent chunk on the Shaoye, but Climber answers back with Wind Becomes Lightning, takes a decent chunk out of Gala and Meiko's health bars, so it should be the end of the play for now. Oh, no. Well, they have a ward on top of it, so Meiko and Gala will be able to at least stall the bases for now. And that gives more time to Jiejie, who is currently invading the top quadrant of Climber's jungle.
And can they make a play on top side? There is a wave, but unfortunately, you're playing against Udyr, so his ability to clear is going to be very strong. This hawk shot will show Rookie responding in mid and some top camps, so they have 2 ideas. Either Jiejie is on the bottom side of the map, or they're preparing for a top side dive here. But now that they've noticed the red buff is gone, they know kind of an idea as to where Jiejie has been.
Yeah. You can already see the battle of lane dominance versus experience coming into play in the first 8 minutes of the game so far, because obviously Shaoye and YCX built this duo with the counter pick in mind to dominate Gala and Meiko, but they've been trying to at least navigate and find windows whenever Jiejie was on the bottom side of the map to then leverage into getting a summoner advantage over Shaoye, trying to use the level 6 for Gala to make a play. Unfortunately for them, obviously Climber has been on one of those instances and able to neutralize a bit of that, but we're going to see how well IG can continue to navigate because, like we said at the top of the draft, this is a composition that IG have where they need to be fast. They need to accelerate the game before the game goes too long and LGD outscales them.
Yeah, without them being able to outright win some of these lanes and having minor CS leads in some of them, I'm going to be looking towards our objectives if they're able to get multiple dragons. And here for LGD, they were actually the first ones to this mid wave. They immediately put their bottom lane here in this lane just so that they can try to play towards the top side. 45 seconds before these grubs spawning, you can see how much priority LGD are putting forward. With an Ashe, with an Azir, their ability to siege on turrets as a 4-man or as a 5-man is very potent. So if they're able to get those 5-6 grubs, summon in Void Mites, I think that IG certainly have to stare down the barrel of anytime we lose a team fight. It's going to be very, very costly as a lot of our structures could suddenly fall.
Yep, especially if LGD get those 6 grubs total, which they are setting up for, already having YCX and Shaoye get the push in the mid lane. 10 seconds before the second rotation comes up, they're already moving their vision line into that river. They're not going to get it deep into the blue quadrant, but because XQW is already moving down, they have 4 men strongly set up to guard this river entrance. Meiko and Jiejie will have to be the first ones in. However, Rookie manages to cheat his way into that top entrance, and he has an angle with that Weaver's Wall.
I mean, but look at this. This is complete fog of war. Thank you to our observers kind of showing this right now. They get mid-push first. Now they're just fighting. So that'll be 4 grubs going over to LGD. Jiejie's walking forward. Has to lose the flash.
That's the Ashe arrow, but they still have the Encore available. They're going to turn right onto Gala. They get this flash. They're going to peel off for now. Weaver's Wall from Rookie tries to cut them off. Meiko's in, looking for the backline. YCX is the target, and First Blood goes over to Jiejie. Now, can XQW, Climber, and Shaoye fight this one out? It's a 3v4, and they're kind of split. Trying to turn on the Jiejie first. XQW getting a lot of damage. Climber flashes out and manages to survive, and the punt away, trying to save Gala.
Oh!
It's not enough. XQW is sliding on them. He's astro gliding. Look at this Azir go, and now Rook is completely routed off. LGD, this is what we were talking about, Alka. Wow, we were so damn excited about this roster, because they're pulling this off against IG.
They're getting grubs, and they're able to find the win in the team fight. That was incredibly sloppy from both teams. I can't wait to watch the replay so we can kind of nitpick some of the decision-making here, but Ashe eventually is able to get that, and that looked very wary because we saw some of the ultimates fly on through. We could watch this from LGD's perspective. They thought they got the jump onto Jiejie, but now they have no Ashe ultimate. So IG are thinking, we can try to make this play. My eyes are on this Taliyah. Rookie flies in, and this wall is incredibly useless. He does not get all that much damage, and it's all onto the Seraphine. We put all of our resources to get rid of the support here, but look at where Gala is. He's putting no damage, while Shaoye is just letting the arrows fly, and those are multiple summoner spells falling, and now 6 grubs for an LGD team that we were talking about wants to play as this game goes later.
No notes, Alk. That was what should have been seemingly a pretty strong pincer from IG, and it just seemed like multiple opportunities were kind of fumbled. But for LGD, I was just kind of enamored with XQW on the Azir. Even the flash looked a little silly, but you know what? He made it work, and he was putting out so much damage, and it just didn't seem like IG was being able to go blow for blow. And that's a massive advantage now for LGD. Now, the cross-trade, is decent for IG, but given the fact that LGD were able to get one of the grubs and still have 4 for themselves, still gives them that opportunity to destroy towers with at least one of the Void Mites.
Yeah, we missed it because we were in the replay, but it seems like LGD, they went for the pivot instead, grabbing themselves at least 1 grubs, resetting, and then making sure that they're ready to play immediately. I like the poise and some of the discipline that LGD is showing, especially for a young team who had some flubs. I mean, part of the reason they ended up losing that game up against TES in the group stage of Split 1 was because they just made some random mid-game mistakes. They felt pressured to make the game end and put themselves in really dangerous spots they ended up losing from. So here, they grab themselves the dragon, which now denies or at least delays that win con that we were talking about with the soul here for Invictus. And you're already seeing it. They're making sure they're getting gold onto this Azir 3-0 on this champion. XQW now has the burden of, hey, I'm playing Azir, and there's very few ways and very little damage from IG to get into my backline as long as I'm protected by someone like Climber and YCX.
Yeah, and LGD are in a pretty great spot. Once again, we want to emphasize that this team does not need to make a lot of action happen in the first 15-20 minutes of the game. If they are scaling and they're hitting their items, hang on, Ash Arrow. Oh, it connects onto Meiko. It's an ult for ult trade. The cow is totally safe.
And I like this. Look, LGD, they're playing towards this Azir. Push from mid, jump into Fog of War, and make it difficult to try to side lane here. It's only Climber in this brush. Gala is waiting in the wings in Fog of War. But IG, we have to make this play work, man. Because we're just losing so much gold. We're losing push in on mid. And, I mean, TheShy has not been able to get much done. He's up 20 CS, but hasn't really been able to focus all that much on the turrets as well. IG looking a little desperate on the map right now.
Maybe TheShy can get this turret at least close to lethal range, but Salsa back on the Udyr, runs on over. Rushing a Thornmail too, just to mitigate a lot of the inherent healing that TheShy is going to get now that he is past the level 6 breaking point on the Mbessa. But if we go back towards the bottom side of the map, where the dragon is not spawning for another 2.5 minutes, it still seems like the hot spot for both of these teams because they want to protect XQW, they want to protect Shaoye, as they are both still racking up the item scaling point. And as you called out, Alk, IG, they are slowly running out of time to really take the game into their own.
We said at 15 minutes they needed to have at least some kind of advantage, and with the goal being barely even between these two, I'm starting to get very worried for IG. And again, these are best of ones, every game matters, and I love how LGD have played the map so far. Jiejie was late on his reset, so now he's walking into Fog of War into his top side. Already, LGD are ready to go, and you saw teleport here from XQW. They wanted to try to get vision, try to get damage down onto this top tier 1. It's going to force the response coming in from Rookie, but how do they ever enter into the river?
Double engage onto Meiko, but he had his ultimate ready to use again. Climber tanks up the engage. Here comes Sasa flying in, but the Mbessa, maybe TheShy can get some done down, but they just push him away and deal with him like he's a fly. And Jiejie is still trying to get stuff done in the backline. Rookie aiding.
Let's go, Shaoye.
Oh, wait a minute. LGD are now losing on their front line. And just like this is what we were talking about for IG to make magic happen. They force the opportunity, and they brute force down the door. YCX cannot rejoin with the rest of his comrades. XQW, the only surviving member, and what looked like a decent fight from LG, ends up disaster for them.
I don't know what happened there for LGD. They, again, weren't firing all on the same targets. It seemed like some of the misgivings of this team, they got a little bit too swept up in some of the hecticness of that fight. And now IG are going to find a huge swing in their advantage. They already were up now 2,000 gold because of them winning that fight. They'll grab the Herald, and they have push on mid. They're almost going to take this entire turret as well. And with how short some of these cooldowns are, they could potentially look to contest onto this dragon. I think it might be a little bit risky, but with how this game is going, we need them to take every risk possible if they want to secure themselves the first game win. And similar to our first fight around the top side, it is all of the useful ultimates onto the support. And now look at where their team is. I mean, Climber's doing some work and trying to, separate the back and the front line, but I mean, Shaoye is not getting very much relevant damage. Jiejie is incredibly tanky on this Vi at this moment, and XQW just wasn't part of this fight in a more meaningful way. It was that ultimate to move TheShy out, but aside from that, the big carry Azir was quite silent in that last fight.
Yeah. Definitely seems strange for LGD to make the pick for Meiko. I'm curious if they just didn't take care of his ultimate cooldowns properly, thinking that the Ash Arrow was up before then, since they had tried it just what seemed like a couple minutes ago on that bottom tri-bush, but, past the past. IG now taking advantage of their map control for now will pick up the third dragon of the game, making it second for them. An arrow flies, doesn't get a chance for a lucky steal. Now, LGD still in a position where they can still scale into the game, but IG kind of gifted a way back into this game to snowball, and there's still time for them to really make a huge push in this mid game.
And IG's going to have a huge wake-up on 2 and 3 items. Already TheShy sitting with an Eclipse and the Shojin. Gala finishing what looks to be a Collector second. And then even going for a very late Muramana here. So It's going to be a bit before IG feel like they're very powerful, but oh, it's actually a Serpent's Fang. Very smart buy when we talk about the amount of shielding that someone like YCX, and you already have the Grievous Wounds coming in from the Hail of Arrows as well, so LGD going to still be, and I think, in a very advantageous spot. It's only 2,000 gold here at the 19-minute mark, and with only 2 dragons to IG's name, I think we're still kind of in this spot where LGD have a lot more rooms and a few more mistakes to make before we really call it.
Yeah. God, that's such a nice utility purchase for Gala. You have so much damage coming from the rest of the members of IG by just dedicating a little bit of that time into making it easier for someone like TheShy, who, up until that kind of botched river fight, hasn't really been given a chance to play the game or participate in the game. But now, as you called it out, 2-item power spike for Invested. This is where it can be really difficult to actually try and deal with her despite all the disengage options you have on LGD.
And I want to talk about our 2 junglers here, because while Climber in his early game, we said that he doesn't have to do all that much, but really has to kind of be there to assist his lanes and make sure that they're able to get push, make sure they're able to take their recall timers when they can. YCX trying to find him.
Ult for ult trade, but the arrow's going to tag him. Encore is going to lock down TheShy further. Do they have enough burst damage? Yes, they do. LGD silence the Ambessa, and that's a 5-on-4 for now on the map for the next 35 seconds. Otacon is available, and I think that's going to be the force for LGD.
They can, but there are still some really key ultimates, and as long as IG can stall them, it's 25 seconds before TheShy is up and available. He doesn't have teleport. They're going to try and rip it. We talked about with AD carry Ashe and with this Azir, their ability to hit on objectives is very strong, but Gala is making sure this is very difficult, and now you've got Rookie and Jiejie pincering maneuvering onto this play.
Yeah, Meiko's trying to look for the backline right now, flanking for the left side, but now LGD dropped the Otacon, immediately turned for the Cow, tried to slow him down, but he is not threatened enough to try and pop the ultimate for now. The Otacon is actually getting aggroed in a weird spot here, so it is still at 7,000 HP, but will finally reset, and the Rookie is looking for a good flank with the Weaver's Wall. He wants to cut off their retreat pattern. He's going to cut off the minion wave for now, and they've bought enough time that TheShy is back on the map. It's still 7,000 HP.
There's an Azir turret behind them trying to protect. LGD are making a really risky play. Here goes Rookie.
The wall cuts them off. They have to funnel in towards the bottom left here. Jiejie flashing away, trying to buy time. Rookie turns onto Climber. They take out the jungler. Now it's just a 4-man squad against the 5. There's the public execution, finds YCX. And you talked about before, Alk, if you are down ultimate spells on LGD, you are just sitting ducks for IG to punish. They don't lose a single man. A 5-for-0 ace, and the Otacon is theirs.
They should have just let the Otacon reset, and they tried to end the game. These were some of the issues we saw for LGD, which is, hey, they have a gold lead, they feel like they're pressured to try to end the game, and unfortunately find themselves now down 5,000 gold, and giving IG, I think, one of the most perfect fights for their composition to execute on. They knew they were down summoner spells, they knew they were down in terms of really key ultimates, and now they have a much bigger lead here for IG. So while their early game was silent, we got to take a look at this. This was TheShy getting caught out. He thought, okay, maybe I can try to make the turn. It's a great use of the ultimate to try to cancel out and get around the CC with the Unstoppable, but from here, this should have just been LGD taking control of mid lane, looking for the mid-tier 1, but instead they get poked out by Gala, they get sectioned away by Rookie, and look at this, again, all of the resources going on to YCX and the Seraphine, but Climber went in to try to, what I am assuming is going to be kind of contesting onto the Otacon. LGD just looks split, and it gives IG a way back into this game.
Bit of a heartbreaker for LGD fans watching this game play out, especially considering how well the early game was going for them. This was a composition that just needed time. It just needed patience to let the item wake-ups go further and further into the game, where they would eventually outscale IG. IG were the ones under pressure to play faster, but the fact that they were gifted a way back into the game, I mean, that's where experience is going to trump some of the overzealousness of these rookies from LGD and IG. I mean, yeah, maybe they didn't have the cleanest early game, but they're not going to waste an opportunity like that.
For sure, and we were looking at the bottom lane very early on. Again, double range matchup for LGD. not having that much of a massive gold lead coming out of the lane, and now Gala finishing 3 items. His items are a bit cheaper, but I think the fact that he is so far ahead of his counterpart here in the Ashe does kind of spell out some of the worries that LGD are finding themselves in. A large majority of that gold lead now residing in some of the carries, especially in the top side of the map here for IG. So we're going to continue to see how this dive composition continues to work. It is this Mbessa flying into the back line, getting poked out by this Varus, and he is providing, I think, a lot of value for the team when we talk about Gala. So looking forward to how IG are going to be looking to close this one out. They grab themselves another dragon here, and while they weren't able to use the Otacon revives, 4.5 minutes time is when LGD are going to have to rock up to contest for the Infernal Soul.
Yep. And if you felt like LGD were already feeling the pressure, then can only imagine what's going to happen at that in the next 4 minutes, around that 28-minute mark, where LGD feel like the game will finally slip away for them if they do not deny the Infernal Soul from IG, considering how there's pretty much 4 champions that can all really benefit from an extra bit of burst damage of trying to assassinate members on the LGD squad.
Okay. They do see Jiejie on the top side of the map. You see the pings coming out. Jiejie thinking that he's on a flank mission. He'll see XQW thanks to the wireframe.
A Vault Breaker kind of clips him in the middle there. The Encore is going to stun him up, and Jiejie's got nowhere else to run. Good patience and a pick there from LGD just as the Baron spawns. But can they actually make a play for it?
I don't think they can. They still have to attend to some of their side lanes. They might be able to walk up and, hey, you've got this Azir, you got this Ashe. Maybe they make the snap. They don't land any of the ultimates now here onto Gala, so I think it is focus on the mid-wave, move into Fog of War off top side, and Bessa now coming in from a flank on the bottom side through Fog of War. Is this gonna be the turn here for IG?
IG want to fight a 4v5. That's pretty bold from them, but they get a flash out of Shaoye for the cost of TheShy's ultimate. That's a pretty nice trade for IG, and once Jiejie gets back on the map, that is a sitting duck waiting to be sprung upon with a cease and desist.
No flash from the Seraphine, no flash from this Ashe, and now the Mikhails as well being taken away. So big summoner spell away from the AD carry of LGD. Like you were saying, you have the Vi, you have this Mbessa. We can take a look again at this replay. It's this single ward. As soon as I saw this on the minimap, I was like, yep, this might be a one-way trip here for Jiejie. And all this does is simply delay IG in being able to find vision and potentially start up the Baron. So I don't think it's that much of a consequence. It's unfortunate for IG that they take a bit of a pit stop in terms of the game, but they still have a really strong gold lead, and you look at where their team is at right now. I mean, even just the experience levels. Look at Climber and Jiejie right now. Almost a full level and a half between this Vi and Xin Zhao.
Dang. That's what happens once you get further control of the map and you're able to start bleeding resources away from the jungle. Then Climber's going to be the first one to feel that deficit and fall back in terms of his overall pace in the game. Thankfully, on Xin Zhao, it's not like, you know, if you are down levels, you're not less useful. You're still going to do
your ultimate is still very OP.
Yep, Crescent Guard is a hell of a drug. Now, LGD, overall, 5,000 gold deficit and a minute and a half away from the Infernal Soul spawning for IG. LGD are still trying to maintain that vision line in the top side just so that IG don't make a bum rush for the Baron. But I feel like we're soon are going to see IG shift that vision line towards the bottom side of the map.
For sure. And you already see that Mbessa, so far TheShy has not had too many whoopsie moments from himself. And here on the bottom side, he has had, I think, priority for the entire game up against his counterpart in Sasa. This is really kind of what Udyr does in a lot of matchups, which is mostly just be a stat stick and try to overwhelm your opponent and keep them as a stopgap measure. But like you were talking about, immediate move. Now they're making this play onto Meiko. The Ashe doesn't the Ashe ult doesn't land. He's just out of there. So it'll be the trade. I think you're fine with that as LGD. Both teams are saying, okay, look, the Ashe ultimate is down, but pretty low cooldown, and it will force Meiko to take a reset, which does give LGD some time to walk into the river, clear vision, and potentially set themselves up.
Yeah, thankfully for them, the Ashe Arrow, I think, is a lower cooldown than the Unbreakable Will from Meiko. But LGD get a chance to be the first ones in the river. Maybe they can try and establish another pick opportunity. Not with the arrow, per se, but Encore still available. XQW, if he feels bold, he can still send it onto a key target. But a lot of the carries that you want to get on IG, they have flash ups, so it's not the easiest setup for LGD to go for here.
I think that LGD are also suffering from the fact that they don't have that mid-tier one. The fact that they weren't able to get the mid-tier one away from IG is causing it very difficult, some difficulty for them to actually contest. Now, Bessa trying to stay in Fog of War. Look at where Jiejie and Rookie are. They're nowhere near this objective. They're going to be coming in from Tribrush.
Oh, they're looking for the flank, pinching right onto the 5-man group. YCX tries to break up the fight with the Encore. Climber pops the ultimate as well, but they've lost their backline in an instant. And LGD, this composition has been fully broken by IG. Damned they try, but it was just not enough. The Infernal Soul is claimed, and it could just be enough time for IG to finish the game.
35-second death timers. You've already got the TP in mid. It feels rough. LGD, those first 15 minutes looked so good, but it was 2 back-to-back fights where they made some pretty big mistakes. They weren't able to kind of accentuate some of the strengths of their team composition with this Azir, and unfortunately now find themselves down the barrel looking at a 0-1 start to the group stage.
Yeah. And if you're an IG fan, you're breathing a heavy sigh of relief right now as we take a look back at the replay. As you called out, this just feels like such a bad position for LGD to take.
I mean, they're not really snapping onto any single member of IG because IG are playing space very, very well. And while the Taliyah ult doesn't, I think, provide the most amount of value, it stops LGD from being able to run away in a more convenient fashion. So IG, they're able to grab themselves the dragon. They win out on the team fight, and you look at some of the items that are coming on through a Zhonya's Hourglass finish for Rookie, double Guardian Angels for Jiejie and Gala. It was already hard enough to kill them with their first health bar. Now they're going to have to deal with an entire second health bar before they're actually able to take down some of the IG members. This game feels done and dusted, and this is the level of performance that we need to see from IG if they want to make top 2. Yes, they have some great names, but they have not shown us some of the best games so far early on into 2025.
Yeah, Split 1 left a lot to be desired on the table, especially probably the most alarming defeat was against NIP. Considering at the time, we did not know what kind of level Ninjas and Pajamas were going to be playing at, but then getting what we considered was a big upset over IG, then turned out to be, hey, you know what? They ended up being the first seed in the group, so maybe a kind of a snap check reality for IG, but now in this group, you want to be one of the first 2 seeds. You want to be making a deep run into playoffs, and having performances like these is the way to do it as they find the snap engage. Once again, cease and desist forces the hand of LGD to turn back and kite. Climber and Sasa trying to stand in front and block as much damage as they can, but I mean, IG, they got Baron buff, they got Infernal Soul. They're making quick work of these structures, and they're just going to move into the top lane to do it all over again.
Another minute and a half before that Baron goes down. They still have so much room to play with. A lot of waves. The mid and the top wave are going to be crashing around the same time, so they continue to apply pressure here. They need to be able to kind of close out. You don't want to be giving a lot of gold over, but you're 14,000 gold up.
LGD waiting for the time. Okay. You know what? He got a flash out of Gala. You know what? That's the.
Retake those.
I think what XQW was trying to do looked pretty slick. Unfortunately, they are down 15,000 gold, so I don't think it doesn't matter anymore. IG gonna do away LGD quickly and swiftly. LGD do what they can, but it's not gonna be enough. IG win the first game of Group D.
Okay, so they start off their group with 1-0. Again, very important when we talk about you're playing double round robin. It's a bunch of best of ones, and I thought this format would actually really help a team like IG. They're more of a team that is really strong in the one-offs instead of really long series, especially with some of their champion pools and their level of performance. So I think not unexpected to see them win here against LGD, but we need to see how they're going to continue to perform in this group.
Yeah, and just to go back to what we were expecting out of both of these squads based on what they drafted, I think we still cannot emphasize enough that IG were in a very short window to execute their composition, and they didn't necessarily play the most proactive with it. They were reactive, but they were given a huge window to punish LGD. And even though it is great for IG to be in a good spot for the group stage, I'm still not convinced that this is the top performing squad that we want to see out of the names of all the players on this squad.
Yeah, their early game still does leave some to be desired, and I mean, to be fair, you looked at how that game still went. I think that they got gifted some of those fights, but I will say that was a much better performance for a player like TheShy than maybe I was expecting.
Yeah.
We'll see how that continues to develop as we get further into this group tonight, but if he can continue to kind of put performances forward like that, I think this is an IG that you can be excited for, which, I mean, I'm sure a lot of fans are already. They see TheShy, they see Rookie, they see Gala and Meiko playing together. I'm sure some of the Jiejie fans that still exist are definitely still having some fun, but this is a roster that fans are excited about. They want to see them make deep playoff runs, and that was not something that was true of them in Split 1, so we need to, I want to temper the expectations, because I think an IG that is going to flounder in some of these games is kind of what you sign up for as a fan of this team.
Yeah, we're just making sure for all the IG fans at home that they're not getting hyped up right now, and then when they play JDG later today, and if they for some reason get stomped or they get completely squashed, then, you know, the heartbreak doesn't hurt and sting even more, right? Now, if IG play very competitively into JDG, then I'm willing to be just a little more excited about the squad going into the Ascend group.
That'll be one of the big matchups that we have coming up today. Just making sure that is the fourth game of the day. That'll be after you have already departed when we've gotten, so we have a lot ready for that matchup. But just real quick, I want to square things off for LGD. These are a bunch of people that were brought up from LGD's youth team, specifically Climber and XQW. So while I think kind of rewarding them for their excellence in the developmental pipeline, this is still a very young team, and we are looking for them to kind of continue to develop. I think that Split 1, very short format, very cutthroat. It is only 3 best of 5s before you're out, and now they're going to be able to play through all of placements, all of the group stage when we're talking about Split 2 and how that kind of rolls out in that format. So I am really looking for LGD to really hit their stride here in the second split of the LPL.
Yeah. And I think there's definitely some things to be positive about based on what we saw in the first 15 minutes of the game. The way they played the fight around the first grub rotation, I mean, yeah, definitely sloppy from IG, but LGD were thriving in the chaos of it all as we get to see this play one more time. And for me, eyes on XQW, just the way he was, as I called it, astrogliding all over IG, and they just could not get a lockdown on him since they were pretty much occupied with both Climber and YCX instead.
I think XQW has been one of the members that has been, I think, suffering the most here playing in the LPL. I think of the last game that LGD played in the group stage of Split 1, the Rise game in particular. He kind of put his team in some really awkward positions. I think of also his Azir game previously. He has been really struggling with making sure that he can stay safe and also still apply or, you know, max out really on the DPS. And I think we saw some of those traits here today in this first game. So I need to see XQW start to make an increase. I think during an entire day of games, and you have to play them over in between some breaks, it can be difficult to make adjustments like that. But he is, I think, going to be one of the big shining pillars and one of the most important factors to whether or not LGD is going to continue to improve.
Yeah, if he can continue performing at an exceptionally high level that, you know, we're not necessarily expecting from a rookie, then yeah, that is the corner and the pillar stone that LGD want to be building upon. But moving on forward for the rest of the group, they've got games against LNG and they've got a game against JDG to close out the day. Yeah. As we talked about before, that LGD match is the best opportunity for both teams. That pretty much would determine more than likely who's going to escape the group as a third seed. Obviously, if LGD want to flip the script later today against JDG, or just win, you know, then, you know, we don't have to just assume that third place is going to be the best that they can get. But, you know, that's just kind of where expectations are right now.
Again, best of ones, every game matters here. You have 6 games you're going to be playing, which is very important when we talk about your career here in the second split for placements. So we'll be seeing how that develops. Again, we saw 5 games today. Not only are we going to be seeing 6 games today, it's going to be in 4 days' time after this that we'll have another chance to see this group. So got a lot of games to play every single day. It is a blitz here at the LPL for the start of Split 2.
By the way, Alk, who wins player of the game? Is it a Gala player of the game, or is it a TheShy player of the game?
I think it's a TheShy. We saw earlier the popular vote was TheShy. I think that he played his laning phase really exceptionally. The single hiccup that he did have when we were talking about like that red side fight actually ended up being a winning position around the Otacon for his team. So
Sure.
I think TheShy, someone that I'm usually very critical of, and I think some of our community members as an LPL fandom and community as a whole might be a little questioning of, he earned it this game. He definitely earned himself a pog, in my opinion.
And you know what? He wasn't a part of the first grub rotation disaster. So he's not to blame on IG Squad for how they fumbled that against XQW's Azir. Now, there it is. There it is. Good job, TheShy.
Great job, man.
Mbessa Gaming.
This is just Mbessa. This champion was first picked in almost every single game that it was available, and the games that it wasn't, it was immediately snapped up. So not surprised to see, especially as a champion that we're gonna probably see more of as we get through these best of ones.
That's right. Well, before we throw it away for break and get ready for Game 2 of our Group B stage gameplay, we have a quick message for everyone in the chat and everyone at home. We're extremely grateful to our Coffee and YouTube subscribers who level up the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it pays on-air talent and content creators. So subscribe to our Coffee, linked in the chat, to unlock perks like early access for content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. Don't turn off that browser, y'all. We'll be back with Game 2.